I have a decision to make. Do I start out with lawlessness in the U.S. government or lawlessness in Egypt? The events in Egypt are starting to look like the events leading up to what took place in Spain between the fascists and the communists, the civil war in Spain. More on that in a moment. If I may, let me focus on our country for a moment. The White House put out its talking points, ladies and gentlemen, and the talking point in particular that I want to focus on is their argument now that Judge Vinson in Florida is a judicial activist. This is judicial activism. How dare a judge rule against Obama? So now originalist judges who look at the wording of the Constitution, who try to determine the intent of the framers, who quote the Federalist Papers, who cite American history like the Boston Tea Party, according to the liberals, they're judicial activists. Let me ask you this. What is the job of a judge, if not to try and intuit the intention of the framers, the terms and conditions of our society that were set in place oh so long ago? Is that judicial activism? This is what the left does in this country. Takes our language, plain English, and distorts it. That's why they're propagandists. Right here, the White House blog, that's what it's called, by Stephanie Cutter, an assistant to the president, on January 31. Today, a judge on Monday in Florida issued a decision in a case filed by 25 Republican attorneys general and governors. That would be 26. Striking down the Affordable Care Act. The ruling is well out of the mainstream of judicial opinion. Then I go to the New York Slimes. They have an editorial the next morning entitled Judicial Activism on Health Care, a ruling by a federal district judge in Florida that the entire health care law is unconstitutional was a breathtaking example of judicial activism and overreach. Word goes out from the White House to the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost, and it spreads across the country like locusts eating up our history. Now, we're not a stupid people. Americans, well, we've been practicing democracy for quite some time. And it seems to me, ladies and gentlemen, when we have a federal judge who stands against a lawless administration, who stands against an unconstitutional law, who reaches back into American history, into the Federalist Papers, to secure our liberty, well then, that's not judicial activism. That's a judge with enormous courage and integrity. This decision came out on Friday. It was issued late Friday afternoon, Monday afternoon, this Monday evening. And at the time it came out, while I was sitting behind this microphone, I said many things about this decision. Things that you've heard percolating yesterday and today. That's why it is important. I view my role on these issues to get this stuff analyzed and out over the airwaves as soon as possible. Because when this decision first came out on Monday, our dear friends at the Washington Times and the Fox News Channel were saying that the judge stayed his decision while ruling against government-run health care. He absolutely had not. I said he voided the case. He voided the law. He stayed nothing. I said, look at page 75. The judge said this is a declaratory judgment, finding the entire statute unconstitutional. I don't have to issue an injunction. The government can't impose an unconstitutional statute on the nation. I said if the administration failed to follow the law, then it was lawless. It was violating the Constitution, that this was as serious as Watergate. I'll prove it to you. As the first one to comment on this ruling on Monday, cut one, go. A federal judge in Pensacola, Florida, not only ruled that the individual mandate in Obamacare is unconstitutional, he ruled that because you cannot sever that mandate from the rest of the law, that the entire Obamacare bill is unconstitutional. And he went a step further. Even though he refused to entertain a request by these 26 states, excluding New Jersey, 26 states to enjoin Obamacare's implementation, he said, there's nothing left to implement. I have ruled that it's unconstitutional. And he said, I expect the federal government to comply with it. At the time, everybody was missing page 75. As soon as this decision came out, and I understood the ruling, I said, okay, now what? What did he say? What did he say? Did he stay his decision? Did he issue an injunction? What did he do? As a matter of fact, I called my guys at Landmark Legal Foundation. I said, I'm missing something. What did he do? There it is on page 75. He voided the law. It's dust. It's gone until a higher court does something else. Cut 2 from Monday. Go. So basically, the federal government has been told by a federal judge in Florida, your law is unconstitutional. You cannot implement it. Now, will the federal government defy this judge? Will it defy a court order? Will the Obama administration ignore it? And if the Obama administration ignores it, what will the media in our country do when a president of the United States intentionally and knowingly refuses to comply with a federal court order? Whether it's civil rights in the 1960s, whether it's anything else, does this not remind you of Watergate in a sense if our government does not, that is, the executive branch does not comply with this federal judge? Do we not have a constitutional crisis if the executive branch refuses to comply with a judicial branch order? The liberals who love the courts, who use the courts to advance their cause when they can't get it democratically done, what will they say? I'll tell you what they'll say. We have 2 other judges who've ruled that it's constitutional. That doesn't matter. You don't get the forum shop results. A federal court in Florida has said that this law is unconstitutional. Period. Your only relief is to appeal it. You must cease and desist from further attempts to implement it. But I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, that the media in this country, which would call for the impeachment of a Republican president who openly defied a federal court order, and in fact did, will support this president because they believe in Obamacare and they want the result changed. It's Monday evening, right after the decision was issued, and I want one step further. Cut 4, go. You'll recall in the decision in Arizona, when the great state of Arizona lost much of its case and the federal district judge refused to stay her opinion, they immediately went to the Ninth Circuit, got in front of a panel, and argued its position on getting a stay of that lower court's ruling. Instead, what does the Obama administration do? Calls the reporters together in a phone conference. This is CBS News. And I quote from CBS News, the White House officials said the ruling would not have an impact on implementation of the law, which is being phased in gradually. The individual mandate, for example, does not begin until 2014. They said that states cannot use the ruling as a basis to delay implementation in part because the ruling does not rest on anything like a conventional constitutional analysis. 26 states disagree, and a federal judge disagrees. I'm not going to accuse this administration of sedition, but it's coming pretty damn close to the line. I have never used that word in all my years on radio. Never to describe what I consider the extra-constitutional, if not unconstitutional, behavior of this administration. But this is a de facto injunction issued by a federal judge, and they cannot pretend that it hasn't been done and play so ruthlessly with the rule of law. All right, that was Monday. One more. I then encouraged Congress. I urged the Republicans in the Congress not to sit on their laurels, but to act. To act. When we have an administration right now, it's Wednesday, right now, defying the Constitution. Cut 3, go. I'm telling you, Republicans in Congress, you should be jumping up and down, not just with joy over this judge's decision, in which he quotes James Madison in the Federalist Papers, in which he quotes Marbury versus Madison, in which he actually quotes the Constitution of the United States. But you should demand that this administration reveal its intentions immediately. You should ask the Secretary of HHS to come before you under oath and ask her flat out, will she defy a court order? And if so, what are you going to do about it? And I would tell the 26 states and their counsel, I believe it's David Rivlin, who's done an outstanding job, and others, that if the administration continues to proceed with the implementation of this law, you should go right back to this trial judge, to this federal district court judge, and seek contempt against Obama and his administration. They don't get to enforce what they want and ignore what they want. Either the courts, and the liberals have always wanted this, either the courts have the final say, and I don't believe theoretically anyway that they should, but that's a side point. Either the court has the final say or it doesn't. And if it does, then there's nothing else to say. Once again, Republicans in Congress, it's time for an immediate hearing with the Secretary of HHS and for you to answer this question. Are you going to comply with this federal court ruling, or are you going to defy it in violation of your oath and the litigators for the 26 states? If you find that the Obama administration continues to proceed with the implementation of this law, you should go right back into this court and seek contempt for the Obama administration's refusal to adhere to a ruling it disagrees with. Will this be Watergate, or will it not? Well, it is. It is. I'm back live. That was Monday evening when the decision came out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering what will soon be our third day of the Obama administration's refusal to comply with the Constitution and a federal judge's ruling. We're entering the third day where they haven't even, to my knowledge, filed an appeal with the circuit court to stay the lower court's decision. They simply are defying a federal judge. Where is the Department of Justice? The Department of Justice is a political wing now of the Obama White House. We have nobody enforcing the law. We have nobody upholding the law. Now, the states of Wisconsin and Florida, it appears, have decided that there's no law for them to implement any longer. And they are, in fact, correct, since the last position of the law as it applies to Obamacare is that there is no law. And so the states should stop implementing this statute until there is a different ruling from a higher court. If the Obama administration wants to continue to violate the Constitution, to defy a federal judge, and play rope-a-dope, then you states have no responsibility whatsoever to comply. And you insurance companies, I know it goes against your corporate culture. I know you corporatists are always scared to death, always ready to genuflect when the government points a finger at you. Well, today you don't need to. There is no Obamacare law officially. It's been voided. And it is not an act of civil defiance to refuse to adhere to any aspect of it. The act of civil defiance, that is, the act of constitutional violations, are occurring on the other side. Barack Obama today, the Attorney General of the United States today, the Secretary of HHS today, are conducting themselves in a lawless fashion. It is they who are leading opposition to the United States Constitution. It is they today who stand in the shoes of Hosni Mubarak. It is they who are disregarding our universal values. It is they. We'll be right back.